Mythical creatures like leprechauns and faeries have captured the imaginations of people for centuries. These beings from Irish folklore are often associated with magic, mischief, and mystery, are deeply rooted in ancient Celtic traditions. Mischievous leprechauns and the elusive faeries are still thought today to live in enchanted forests across Ireland. The origins of these fascinating creatures, their characteristics, and how they've evolved in modern culture are the heart of Irish mythology. Leprechauns are perhaps the most famous creatures in Irish folklore, widely recognized for their mischievous nature and association with gold. Descriptions of leprechauns vary, but they are typically depicted as small, bearded men wearing green coats and buckled shoes. These magical beings are known for their cunning ways, particularly their love of hiding treasure. In the legend, if you catch a leprechaun, he'll grant you 3 wishes in exchange for his release. But beware, he is notorious for tricking those who try to catch him, slipping away from their grasp when they least expect it. Despite their trickster reputation, leprechauns are also considered solitary creatures, often seen in remote, rural areas. Their origins trace back to ancient Celtic mythology, where they were thought to be part of a larger group of faeries known as the leprechaun kind, or Luchrapan in Irish Gaelic. Deep in the heart of Ireland, where the rolling green hills meet the misty woodlands, there lived a leprechaun named Seamus O'Malley. Unlike the other leprechauns, who spent their days hiding gold and crafting fine shoes, Seamus had a love for tricks. He enjoyed outwitting humans, leaving them chasing after rainbows or digging up empty holes where they thought treasure was buried. But there was one man in the village who had never fallen for Seamus's tricks, old Liam McGrady. Liam was a grumpy old farmer with sharp eyes, and a sharper mind would shake his fist at the trees where Seamus often hid. Liam knew the old laws. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Seamus was strolling through the meadows when he heard a snap. A rope tightened around his ankle, yanking him up into the air. He dangled from a tree, face to face with old Liam, who stood grinning up at him. Seamus had fooled many men before, but now he was bound by the ancient magic of the leprechauns. If a human caught him fair and square, he had to grant a wish. Seamus wished for a promise: no more tricks, no more pranks, no more leading good folk on wild goose chases. Bound by the ancient magic, the leprechaun agreed. He said, "A wish is a wish. It's done. No more tricks." Satisfied, Liam cut the rope. Seamus tumbled to the ground, dusting off his green coat. Then, he gave Liam one last twinkle-eyed look. "Ah, but you see, old Liam," Seamus said with a smirk. "You never said I couldn't play a trick one last time." And with a snap of his fingers, Liam found himself standing in the middle of his field, barefoot, his hair turned pink, dressed in a belly dancer's outfit and wearing more makeup than a clown. Seamus's laughter echoed through the hills as he vanished into the mist, never to be seen again. And though Liam grumbled, deep down, he had to admit, he'd been bested fair and square. The origin of the leprechaun is rooted in Celtic mythology, where fairies and spirits played important roles in shaping the world. In ancient Irish legends, leprechauns were thought to be part of the sea, a supernatural race of beings that lived in the otherworld. The name leprechaun is believed to come from the Old Irish word luchrapan, meaning small body, which reflects their diminutive size. Over time, these creatures became associated with treasure and mischief. In the 18th century, the leprechaun became more widely recognized as a symbol of Irish culture, thanks in part to the publication of folktales and stories that emphasize their cleverness and love of gold. Today, the leprechaun is a global icon, often tied to St. Patrick's Day celebrations, but its roots are deeply embedded in Irish mythology. Faeries, or Aes Sidhe, are ancient beings that are central to Irish folklore. Unlike the tiny, winged creatures often portrayed in modern pop culture, these fairies are sometimes described as tall, beautiful, and ethereal, often possessing otherworldly powers. They are closely linked to the otherworld, a mystical realm where time flows differently and where magic is abundant. In Celtic belief, the faeries were considered the guardians of the land, protecting natural elements like forests, rivers, and hills. Faeries are often divided into two groups, the Seelie and unseelie courts. The Seelie fairies are benevolent and helpful to humans, while the unseelie fairies are darker and more malevolent, playing tricks or causing harm. Stories of fairies often involve humans stumbling upon their realm and either receiving blessings or facing curses, depending on how they interact with these enigmatic creatures. In a quiet village nestled between the ancient Irish woods and the misty green hills, there lived a kind-hearted girl named Aisling. She was known for her gentle spirit and kindness to all creatures, but her family had fallen on hard times. Their crops had withered, their cows stopped giving milk, and her father's health was failing. One evening, as Aisling wandered near the forest, she found a tiny bird with a broken wing. Carefully, she wrapped it in her scarf. She took it home, fed it crumbs, and kept it warm by the hearth. Days passed, and soon, the bird's wing healed. One night, as the full moon glowed over the village, Aisling awoke to a soft, golden light filling her room. There, where the bird had been, stood a radiant fairy with shimmering wings and hair woven with moonlight. When she spoke, her voice sounded like the wind through the trees. She wanted to repay the girl for her kindness with a gift. With a wave of her delicate hand, she placed a small silver acorn in Aisling's palm. Promising if she were to plant it by their home, the family shall never know hunger again. Before Aisling could thank her, the fairy vanished in a swirl of golden dust. At sunrise, Aisling eagerly planted the acorn in the garden. By nightfall, a magnificent tree had grown, its branches heavy with golden apples. When her mother picked one and took a bite, her tired eyes sparkled with newfound strength. Her father, weak from illness, ate an apple and felt warmth return to his limbs. The family's fortune changed from that day forward. The apples never ran out, and their home became a place of plenty. But Aisling never sold the apples for greed, nor did she hoard their magic. Instead, she shared them with the village, ensuring no one went hungry. And though she never saw the fairy again, she often felt a soft breeze through the trees, as if whispering a quiet blessing. And so, the village thrived, not just because of magic, but because of kindness, which is the greatest magic of all. In ancient Celtic culture, fairies were not merely figments of imagination, they were believed to be real, powerful entities with influence over both the human and natural worlds. The Celts believed that the fairies resided in the otherworld, a parallel dimension where time and space behaved differently. It was said that the fairies could move between our world and theirs through specific locations, such as fairy mounds, burial sites, or sacred groves. The belief in fairies was so ingrained in Celtic society that certain places were considered enchanted or dangerous, and interactions with fairies were both revered and feared. Offering milk or bread to the fairies was a common practice to ensure protection or favor, while angering them could lead to bad luck, illness, or misfortune. Over time, fairies became seen as both protectors of nature and tricksters who could bring both blessing and harm. As Irish folklore spread through storytelling and literature, fairies evolved into some of the most captivating characters in Western mythology. Early depictions of fairies were tied to the land and nature, but over time, they began to be portrayed in a more fantastical and whimsical light. In the 19th and 20th centuries, authors like W.B. Yeats and J.M. Barrie, of Peter Pan fame, helped shape the image of the fairy as a gentle, playful being. Yeats, in particular, wrote extensively about Irish fairies and their mystical qualities, blending the ancient beliefs with a more romanticized vision of fairy lore. Artists also embraced fairy imagery, using them to explore themes of magic, beauty, and danger. Today, fairies are often depicted as delicate, winged creatures in books, movies, and even fantasy art. However, the darker, more dangerous side of fairy mythology is still present in some modern interpretations. While leprechauns and fairies share a common origin in Irish mythology, their roles and characteristics are quite distinct. Leprechauns are often portrayed as solitary figures, focused on mischief and the pursuit of gold, while fairies are typically more connected to the natural world and the supernatural. However, both creatures are part of the larger fairy realm, and their stories are often interwoven in Irish folklore. In some stories, leprechauns are considered a type of fairy, while in others, they are seen as separate beings with their own distinct culture and behaviors. Interestingly, the two creatures have been known to cross paths in myths, with fairies sometimes helping or hindering the leprechauns' treasure hunts. Despite their differences, both leprechauns and fairies are seen as tricksters who can bring either fortune or misfortune to those who encounter them. The legacy of leprechauns and fairies continues to thrive in modern culture, although their images have evolved over time. Leprechauns, once symbols of mischief and magic, are now often associated with Irish pride and St. Patrick's Day celebrations. They appear on everything from holiday decorations to commercial products, becoming icons of Irish culture that are recognized worldwide. Fairies, on the other hand, have been reimagined in a variety of ways in popular culture, ranging from the sweet and innocent fairies of children's stories to the darker, more complex fairies found in modern fantasy novels like The Hobbit and The Mortal Instruments. Despite these changes, the core characteristics of both leprechauns and fairies, their connection to magic, nature, and trickery, remain intact. These creatures continue to captivate audiences, inspiring a sense of wonder and mystery. The leprechauns and fairies of Irish folklore are more than just characters from ancient myths, they are enduring symbols of mystery, magic, and the natural world. From the mischievous leprechaun guarding his pot of gold to the elusive fairies that inhabit enchanted realms, these creatures represent the allure of the unknown and the unexpected. They remind us of the power of imagination and the deep connection between culture, nature, and storytelling. Whether you're drawn to their magic or their mischief, the legends of the leprechaun and fairies continue to capture the human spirit, reminding us that there's always more to the world than meets the eye.